Alright, hey guys. Now that Starfire's had a few days to be out, I wanted to kind of come back in and do a tier list uh, review in a sense. I know I put out the Justice League of Discord tier lists, but I have a few discrepancies. I think that is a community voted tier list, and that doesn't always align perfectly with what I think is the current meta and the current what the current tier list looks like. So I took it kind of into my own hands to make my own version, and I wanted to go over today what my own version of the tier list looks like. So in front of us here, you'll see my spreadsheet, which I've linked before. I can link again. Probably just start linking it in the description of the videos where I cover anything from it. But yeah, so this is my tier list. It's set up very similarly to the other one because that format was kind of a collective idea from me and some of the other guys who started that. I break it down by larger categories. So warriors and guardians are grouped into one category under tanks because warriors in general are off tanks and guardians are meant to be main tanks. DPS consists of firepower, magical, and assassin because those are the DPS classes in the game. They're focused around doing damage. And I couldn't come up with a better collection for the supports and the intimidators other than just buffers and debuffers. It's not perfect, but kind of lumping it to supports or strategist if you're a Marvel Rivals or an Overwatch player didn't really make a lot of sense. So for now it's just buffer and debuffer because that's what I see a lot of other mobile games kind of do. Yeah, so there's let's see, not much is different here really. I think how structure wise goes. I can actually pull up here. I'll pull up the Justice League of Dark Discord tier list, just kind of show you similarly how it's run. Chloe doesn't rank Chloe is the graphic designer. She orders these by class, whereas in mine, I order it by top to bottom is how good they are. So Constantine is better than Nightwing, Nightwing's better than Sinestro, etc. So back to here, I do use a similar criteria for when I rank the characters. So S tier, it's basically a must build. You have to be making a considerable impact in all three game modes, the main three game modes, I should say, which, in my opinion, are Meta Brawl, Combat Cycle, and Training Simulator. Those are the three game modes. You have to be top scoring in all of those game modes. You have to be a staple in all three of those game modes to get S tier, in my opinion. A plus tier, you fall short in one of those, but in the other two, you're so overwhelmingly good that it's not enough to lower you down to A tier. Whereas A tier they're very good in most, if not all, game modes, but not the best. B tier, you're really only good in one and a half game modes. C tier, you have a defined, not extremely, you just have a defined niche. You're not, you have a little more plug and play, not plug and play, you use in specific scenarios, basically, is how I view C tier. And D tier there is just no reason to build these characters. I can go over a little, I won't go too in depth, but I'll go a little bit over some specifics, because I know, Deadshot is a surprisingly debated one, because a lot of newer players seem to think he is worth building, but at the moment, he doesn't have a niche. I won't spoil too much, but he is definitely one of the characters that will scale later on, for sure. Okay, so let's see, we can close that, because that's just how I wanted to define my criteria. So, yeah, I do have a few notes here on the Google Sheets. You'll notice Superman and Starfire both have a little star next to them. That means that I consider them as, you need the unique legacy piece in order for them to be at that rank. Okay, so I'm going to start with the tank category here. I think it's relatively straightforward. There seems to be a lot of debate here for some reason from newer players. I think a lot of newer players kind of overestimated how good Superman. I don't really know what the disconnect is. Superman is still an S tier character. The thing is, he needs at minimum purple 1 stars, and he needs his legacy piece. His legacy piece is basically a must if you want him to survive later on at all. He just needs it. He doesn't have enough bulk naturally without it, and it also quadruples the amount of damage he does on ultimate. It's insane. And he is still valuable. He's valuable in all three game modes. He's totally usable in Meta Brawl. He's a very good single target physical shredder. very good in combat cycle, still does phenomenal damage, even though, like, Joker, people like to glaze Joker for his combat cycle utility. And he is a top tier character in Meta Brawl, still at just shredding front lines. So he really hasn't slipped, in my opinion, for S tier, and he's only going to scale once Super Fam becomes a thing. So this character is just S tier. I don't really think there's any reason to debate that. Next we have A+. Now, this is where a lot of our Guardians fall, and that's just because Guardians in general just aren't useful in combat cycle, like, at all. So, unfortunately, they kind of... Well, Fate, Fate has an argument for him being usable in combat cycle, but... and honestly, even Scarecrow, but, Wonder Woman is, like, I think the prime example of she's held back by just she's not useful in combat cycle. Scarecrow at least has the arguable niche of... being used in the Joker comp. That usually helps a lot of early servers push really, really far in combat cycle, but he's not as valuable in training sim, in my opinion. You're not going to use him in just, like, the classic training sim. In the Realm of Fate stages, obviously he's important, because you can use him in Legion of Doom and Arkham, and he's arguably needed in both. But, it's not, like, a requirement for regular training sim. And Dr. Fate, JLD is just the best team in the game right now. It's not really, overall in every single game mode, just the best team, and he has phenomenal supporting abilities, and he's able to keep his team alive. So he definitely deserves to be an A+ tier. And then moving down to A tier, Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter and Hawkgirl are two very similar situations where they were just they were classed wrong. Don't treat these characters as warriors. They are both guardians in everything but name. Martian Manhunter very much he does not deal devastating damage, but he is actually very useful in PvP and Meta Brawl. Basically unusable in combat cycle. He just embarrassingly low damage in combat cycle, but he's very good in PvP. And he's pretty decent in training sim because he can actually be used to counter Deathstroke stages pretty efficiently if you can keep his energy gain up. So he definitely is a solid A tier character. I think he has room to maybe move up. Maybe Outsiders overall, like, kind of right now, just only having 3 characters, but for now he's comfortably an A tier. Shazam is another A tier character. He feels really weak early game and scales really well. Arguably the better tank late game than Wonder Woman, but I think he really only has the niche of just being a bullet sponge for Superman and Justice League right now. There's really, like, not much use outside of that. He's completely useless in combat cycle. He has decent use in training sim. He can push you pretty far if you puppy guard your Superman. And same thing with Meta Brawl, sorry. He can counter Joker, keep Joker's stacks off of Superman, and just survive them and just tank them pretty well. So he's definitely very good in the Justice League team and is a solid A tier character for me. Then we have Batman and A tier. Batman and Harley Quinn are both... they were kind of overrated, I think, at the start, and they've slipped a little bit. Batman especially, we were hoping Nightwing would be a good buff for him, but, like, he almost doesn't have a use in the Batfam team. He's just in a weird spot because it's like, it's Batman. I feel like when you think Batman, you shouldn't... My first initial reaction to hearing Batman is, like, he's not great, and that really is unfortunate, but I think that is just where he's at the moment. He's, like, okay, he has good debuffing abilities, he has solid AoE damage, but not, like, game-breaking AoE damage. He's not, like, a must-run in Justice League or Batfam. He honestly gets benched a lot of the times in both. If you want, like, it's more valuable to run, like, a Titans hybrid with Batfam than it is to just run Batman, so... He's in a weird spot right now. Harley Quinn, similarly enough, she kind of falls off if you don't giga invest in her. I've seen there is someone in Server 200 who is very much invested in the Birds of Prey core and has Harley's legacy up to, like, purple 1-star or something stupid. And she does really good, but I mean, every character can do really good if you just giga invest in them, so I don't really... There's not enough of a reason to invest in both Batman and Harley right now. They both kind of slipped as more characters come out. Yeah. So then moving on to B tier, we have Hawkgirl. Similar to Martian Manhunter. We were promised an off tank that does massive damage, and we got a main tank that is just a bullet sponge. She's, like, fine. She doesn't really do anything. Like, I don't have much to say about her because she's just very underwhelming. Very, like, low damage. I mean, fine survivability, but, like, it's just, she's really not good. Bane is good. Very good at just being a wall. He has an added niche of he's I believe pops. Don't quote me on this. Pops killer tanks tigers the fastest, or he pops them extremely fast. He's very good at helping people beat killer tank. So he gets a lot of bump up in that category. But unfortunately, Arkham is kind of just a weak team. Arkham dominates for a long time because I think people see them scoring really high in combat cycle and they're like, oh, it's like a really good team. I'm gonna invest in Arkham, and they just kind of suck in every other game mode. So yeah, Arkham is pretty much dead in pre-launch servers. Nobody's using them. Red Robin, he's barely holding on to this B tier. I'm gonna be honest. I debated just throwing him down in C tier, but I mean, he's good in the Bat Fam Titan hybrid team, but if you don't have Nightwing, it's really not worth running him. Which is honestly why I'll probably move him down to C tier next month. But just for now, with Titans not having a full team, like maybe in the future if Young Justice breaks off from Titans and gets its own, tag synergy, and you get Superboy and Wonder Girl and Impulse, and you get them all on a separate team, maybe Red Robin will come back. But it's kind of underwhelming because he definitely feels like a legendary character. He's just not that impactful. Yeah. All right, and then moving on to C tier, we have the two of the legendary tanks. Killer Croc, just kind of underwhelming. I was talking with someone in Gen Chat a while back about how to fix him. There's an argument to be made for his third scale and an argument to be made for his second scale. He just needs something. Sometimes it doesn't even feel like his physical debuff is working. He survives fine, but like he just doesn't do any damage. Which, I mean, he's a main tank, so he's not really like. I don't know. He doesn't have enough utility to warrant having such low damage in a sense. Like he's a main tank, so he should be tanking, but he doesn't tank super well, and he doesn't do a lot of damage, so it doesn't he's just in a weird spot. He's good early game, but he slips quick, and he unfortunately just keeps falling. And he's just going to inevitably be replaced. He's a very fillable role. Suicide Squad has like Peacemaker, it has like King Shark to fill the main tank role. Not Arkham. Legion of Doom in the future has like you can do Grodd, you can do Brainiac, you can do Vandal Savage. Like there's just a lot of characters that can easily fill the hole that he's leaving in both of his teams. So unfortunately, he's just kind of forced into mediocrity. And Adam too. I see it honestly, like Adam is like everyone initially thinks he's the worst character in the game. By no means is he the worst character in the game. He 1,000% has a given niche of he's very good in Training Simulator. You can combo him really well with like Robin, Nightwing, Sinestro, because he can do huge damage with an explosion, stun them, and then someone else can just clean up all the people that he leaves at 1 HP. So Adam is definitely very good. He can survive surprisingly long once he's fully built up. His dodge usually ramps up pretty quickly. He's not terrible. I mean, he's just, legendaries are in a weird spot right now, so he's just unfortunately not going to be much better. Yeah, and Catwoman is just definitively the worst tank in the game. She doesn't really survive. She doesn't really do damage. She doesn't really, debuff. She just kind of sits there. She whittles away, and then she maybe dies last. Even knowing somebody who's giga invested in her, they've just giga invested in a damage sponge, which I'd rather have my damage sponge be someone like Dr. Fate or Scarecrow, who's also providing extra utility to my team. I'm not going to invest in a warrior like Catwoman or Hawkgirl to just be a damage sponge when their role is supposed to do damage as well as being able to tank more. I don't know why they changed. She was an assassin. I don't know why they changed her to a warrior. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But here we are, and here we are forcing her to mediocrity. Okay, so then moving on to the DPS category. The top three in the DPS category, I'm just going to go ahead and say are top three in the game in that order: Constantine, Nightwing, Sinestro. Overall, these three are just the top three characters in the game. They can be used on every game mode. They will do extremely well in every game mode. Nightwing and Sinestro are both pretty plug and play friendly, and Constantine gets Omega buffed on his Justice League Dark team. So, I mean, overall, these three are just kind of everything you want from a DPS. Constantine is great AoE and damage over time. Nightwing is very good at finishing kills. He gets a lot of super armor. He can jump around backline and, take, no damage while he's jumping around. And Sinestro will do chain damage. He does strong single target damage that then, chains to lower HP enemies, and every time he does damage, he's going to also gain more energy. So he's very much a... I think people get a little unnerved when they start seeing his combat cycle damage compared to some other ones, but you know, he's not going to do number one damage at combat cycle, but he's still extremely useful in that game mode. He can still do insane damage. Not as much as, say, like Joker or Constantine will do, but he's still doing, like, really good damage that shouldn't be laughed at. So he's definitely worthy of the S tier. And I think he is the third best character. Moving on to A+ tier, we have Deathstroke. He's another character I think will be a little contested. He doesn't do enough in combat cycle anymore. He did have a bit of a moment where he was really present in combat cycle early on, but he kind of slipped and has kept slipping. I don't really see anyone using him at all anymore in combat cycle. He's pretty much just fallen to uselessness. He's also just whale food, which I mean doesn't really affect my tier list, but just to put it out there, this is character. He's a good counter to Justice League Dark. Legion of Doom in general is the whale counter to Justice League Dark, because in order for that team to counter JLD, your Deathstroke has to be insanely built. He needs to have his legacy piece. He needs to have a lot of force investment. He needs to be able to just jump right to the back line, kill Constantine, and, end it quickly. So I think that also bumps up his value a lot, because he is arguably one of, if not the best character in Meta Brawl, because he can beat the best character in Meta Brawl, who would the would-be best character, Constantine, if you haven't invested. But he doesn't do enough in combat cycle to warrant being bumped up to S tier, and I don't really see him honestly being used in regular training sim. I've only really seen him be used in Realm of Fate. So, yeah. Moving on to A tier, I think Green Arrow finally slipped. I think Nightwing, the gap between Nightwing really just pushes Green Arrow down. I don't see an argument for him in A+ tier anymore. He's just not that good. He's solid. He's probably, he's the best legendary DPS, but probably second best legendary behind Wonder Woman. But, like, I don't know. I think he's just slipped. Deathstroke, Nightwing, Superman, they're all just doing more than he is. He's just kind of falling further and further behind. And then previously, Robin and Lex Luthor, I think, were two characters that were both really undervalued early on. But Nightwing helped Robin move up. The rework to Red Robin, a couple updates back, helped Robin move up. And just Titans Bat Fam just becoming basically like a soft meta team because of Nightwing, I think really bumped up Robin's viability. I think originally people thought that Nightwing would just replace Robin in the Bat Fam team, but I think what actually ended up happening is he just replaced Red Hood, because, legendaries are just they just keep slipping, unfortunately. So yeah, Robin is definitely very good. I know Galactic is really big on Lex Luthor. He thinks Lex Luthor is secret meta. I think Lex Luthor is good. I don't see any reason for him to go higher than A tier, but he's definitely really good. Great AoE damage. Legion of Doom is a sleeper team. He does a lot for energy rate up. He helps them get more attacks off. And he's just overall very solid. I think he's just better Batman, at least for damage. Probably the best AoE physical damage dealer. Let me just check before I eat my words saying that. I'm gonna go ahead and say best AoE physical damage dealer is Lex Luthor. He can be used in a lot of a lot of combat cycle bosses, and he's pretty solid in PvP. Yeah. All right. We got a B tier. I think Black Adam also slipped. I think the presence of Constantine and Sinestro, there needs to be a bigger gap. He's very good, don't get me wrong, and I think he's a fantastic budget spiritual DPS damage dealer until Constantine starts coming out. But I just don't really see an argument for him to go any higher. I don't think he's on the same tier as the three above him. But very good. He can do backline damage and frontline damage. Very simple kit, but it works very well. Red Hood, too. I think people undervalue him just because of his suicidal tendencies, where he just tends to jump in the backline and nuke himself. But fully built up, he is kind of a monster. He's very good in combat cycle. Very good for Batfam training sim. And kind of in Meta Brawl, but, So he definitely is worth the B tier. And Arsenal debuts at B tier for me. I'm just really underwhelmed. He does not do a lot of damage. I've been testing him with people who have him around like the purples and the golds, and he's really not doing much. He's kind of part of the reason I think people say the Outsiders are mid is because he should be doing big damage, because he's the only true DPS on the Outsiders team, and he's not doing it. So he relies too much on counterattacks, I think, and his individual attacks just aren't doing the damage. And then moving on to C tier, I have Aquaman and Two-Face because, honestly, they don't even deserve to be DPS. They are both situational controllers. Aquaman is good at, combating Superman and Deathstroke, But, in the spiritual DPS meta, he just gets obliterated. Sinestro one-shots him. Full built Sinestro will shit on him. A full built Nightwing will destroy him. A full built Constantine will destroy him. A full built Joker will destroy him because they don't care about where they're positioned on the map. They'll just jump to him and just kill him, or shoot their attack from the backline and kill him. So I think people really glaze him early on when Justice League is meta and when it's just Superman and Joker. Everyone's like, oh, it's Aquaman. Aquaman's the best character in the game. He's just honestly useless. At the point that 200 to 204, 205 are at, just not useful. And Two-Face is in the same, very similar boat where his only value is in the Joker Combat Cycle comp. He's basically fodder outside of Combat Cycle. I don't even use him in the Arkham Realm of Fate. I think the best team in that is using triple frontline, so you just bench him. So I just don't. These guys are both meant to be intimidators. I just don't think they wanted half of Arkham to be intimidators, so they had to make Two-Face DPS, and it doesn't really work. All right, and then moving on to Deadshot. I think he's the worst because his third skill is completely useless. It just gives him a flat 100% accuracy. Doesn't matter. Dodge meta isn't a thing. Dodge meta gear mutation isn't easy enough to get for dodge meta to be considered a thing yet. So he's just stuck in mediocrity. He's a useless third skill. He doesn't have a team because Suicide Squad is just not a team. You have Harley Quinn, Killer Croc, Captain Cold, and Deadshot. Terrible team. Not even a team. They have no synergy. They have no reason to be used. So unfortunately, he is stuck in D tier. But I think as soon as we start seeing Suicide Squad members getting added, he could easily jump up to B or maybe even A tier. I think he definitely has the potential with anti-healing to rocket up in viability once we get, maybe a supporter or just somebody who is buffing and synergizing Suicide Squad really well. So yeah, that's my opinions on the DPS. Now we're going to move on to the buffer/debuffer category. S tier is a little tricky. I think, honestly, S and A plus tier it's very close. There really isn't a definitive best character in S tier, honestly. Starfire, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from her. She's doing phenomenal healing. She's great at providing damage reduction, but she isn't really doing much damage, I will say. Damage has not been impressive from her. But the healing is close to Raven's. It's better than Green Lantern's from what I've seen. But I feel like Green Lantern, Green Lantern is the stun. He is the shield from overhealth. Raven has the repositioning, the self-heals, the mass heals. I feel like all three of these characters aren't really weighted differently, in my opinion, because they all do different niches. I originally had Raven in A+ tier with Poison Ivy, but then when they reworked Raven to no longer require 5 JLD members for her third skill to get the attack bonus, she definitely moved up to S tier in my opinion, because you can use her on Titans now. But, I think unfortunately Ivy just getting so hard countered by Joker is going to hold her back from being in contention for the best support in the game, the best healer in the game. But I really think there's an argument to be made for Starfire, Raven, or Green Lantern. I think either of those three you can say is the best, and I won't really question it. I don't think a lot of people will. But I think Poison Ivy and Mara are both basically out of the running completely. But yeah, Starfire definitely needs her unique legacy piece. I'm hesitant to debut her at S tier because without her legacy piece, she definitely is an A+ tier character, but with that piece, I think she moves up to S, for sure. She's putting out numbers similar to Raven and Green Lantern and everyone else. Now, this one's going to be a hot take. I do end up discussing this a lot, but I truly, wholeheartedly think Joker is A+ tier. People love to send me screenshots of him doing 7 gajillion damage in Combat Cycle. I'm like, alright, cool, now take him to any other game mode and let me see him get a shred of that value. Training Simulator, he just gets deleted. Meta Brawl, maybe he has some use of Meta Brawl to counter IVs. I just feel like at the stage I'm in with pre-launch servers, because we're experiencing the meta that everyone else will experience later. He's just not useful in Meta Brawl. He's not useful in Meta Brawl. I've never seen anybody pushing checkpoints with him in Training Sim. Nobody is using him outside of Arkham Training Sim and Combat Cycle. Even Combat Cycle, he's getting mostly replaced by Constantine and Nightwing. I think I checked top 30, I checked top 30 combat cycle, and I think only 10 of them used Joker. And they were all sub top 6, top 7. Like, a lot of people just don't use him anymore. He's definitely slipped. He's definitely slipped from S tier, in my opinion. I think S tier is now just between these 3 healers, and I think it's still interchangeable. I already discussed Ivy a little bit. I think just getting hard countered by Joker, unfortunately, just will always hold her back from S tier. All right, moving on to A tier. Flash, too, I think is another character early on was kind of undervalued. He basically just makes the best characters in the game really good. So he works very well in combination with Constantine, Nightwing, Sinestro, Superman, any Joker, sorry. He's very good at just he lets them rip off ultimates. He gives them a flat attack buff, and then he'll charge their energy to 100. And the good thing about it is, he won't fully drain his ultimate energy if the target is close to getting ultimate. So, let's say Superman's at 90 out of 100 energy, Flash will give him 10 energy, and then Flash will already be close to another ultimate, and he can just keep ripping off ultimates. Unfortunately, I don't think that works as well in PvP, because having Flash, if you want to use Flash, you have to play the game manually, because it's not worth tanking your attack stat if, say, your Superman has higher attack than your Joker, but you want Flash to power up Joker in combat cycle. Just play the game manually, and you'll see incredible value from Flash. But yeah, I think he's very good at making the really good characters extremely good. Mera, I called this. I've been saying this since day one. People were always so high on Mera at the start of the game, and I'm like, dude, her kit is so basic. She's gonna just get power crept really quickly. And I think with Raven getting buffed, I think with the introduction of Starfire, she's just fully been power crept. She's fully been power crept. She's the worst healer. She is very accessible free to play, and I don't think free to play should just not invest in her. But she gets replaced, and she is not the best healer. There was argument for her being S tier a while ago, early on in the game. I think that is officially, if you want to argue she's still S tier, I just think you're wrong. I don't think there's an argument for her to be S tier. Maybe an A plus tier argument, maybe an A plus argument, but I don't see it. She just got power crept. It happened. And Zatanna, she's easily the weakest link of Justice League Dark. She's kind of a noob bait, because before Constantine drops, everyone's like, oh my god, Zatanna does so much damage, what the heck? And then Constantine drops, she's like, oh, okay, she sucks. She's fine, but, I don't know. She could have been better. I really think she could have been better. She's useless outside of Justice League Dark. I've seen a lot of people trying to use her as just a general spiritual DPS buffer, and she just doesn't work. She needs to be slotted into JLD, and even then, she's the first one to get replaced on that team. So I think, unfortunately, she is stuck at A tier for the time being. Alright, and then moving on to B tier, we have Batgirl and Cyborg. I think they're both, honestly, Batgirl could easily move up if Batfam gets any more buffs. She's really good with Nightwing. She makes Nightwing do insane amount of damage. If you are going to build Nightwing, you need to build her and Robin. I think Nightwing, Robin, Batgirl core is kind of the meta Batfam core now that Nightwing is here. She makes Nightwing do ungodly, just an unreal amount of damage. She's good basically in any game when Nightwing is. She has pretty good survivability. The crit res she got on her grappling hook skill is really good. Crit res reduction. So she's definitely very good. Definitely B tier, argument for A tier. Cyborg 2, there is a glitch right now. He seems to be buffing Joker's damage in combat cycle, which is weird. Definitely unintentional, because he's supposed to debuff physical damage, but he's also definitely increasing Joker's damage. And I'm not sure his 5 extra seconds on time limited missions is working properly either. So I think with some bug fixes, his tier placing is a little volatile. I think he could definitely move up. He could definitely move down. We'll have to wait and see. But I think he's solid. He's very good in combat cycle, but he's just not very good outside of it. Is the reason I think he's so low. He's fine in PvP and Meta Brawl, but he's not good. He's really good in combat cycle. And he's fine in the other 2 game modes. So it balances out to a B tier for me. Okay, and then C tier is a little bloated, admittedly, for this category, but I think, but objectively, these 4 characters all just have a defined niche, and that qualifies them as C tier, in my opinion. Penguin's niche will always be Poor Man's Joker. When you summon for Joker, there's no reason to ever use Penguin, but Penguin is just the free man, Poor Man's Joker. He does basically the same thing Joker does, but just on a way smaller scale and at way less damage. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on him. Stargirl has the niche of being the only debuff cleanser in the game for now. As soon as we get a debuff cleanser that's Mythic Plus, or even just regular Mythic, I think she's just going right down to D tier. She's going. She is. Honestly, what I really should do is Captain Cold should be top of this list. By the way, Stargirl is just only clinging onto this category because of her debuff cleanse. Starfire triples the damage reduction that Stargirl does to at least outsiders, but still, I mean, even just flat, she's like, I think a little less than doubling. I think it's like 27%. Yeah, so Stargirl does 27% damage reduction at max level, and Starfire does 40%. So, yeah, Starfire has the damage reduction covered, and once somebody gets the debuff cleanse reduction, or the debuff cleanse niche covered, Stargirl is falling right to D tier, and she's gonna live there forever. Vixen has the niche of just being poor man's support. If you don't have Cyborg, you don't have Batgirl, if you don't have Zatanna, if you don't have Flash, just throw her into combat cycle and she'll do fine. She's just a flat attack up, so you can't really go wrong with that, but she's not anything special. Yeah, she has her niche. Her niche is similar to Penguin's, just budget versions of better characters. And then with the recent fix to Captain Cold, he is definitely C tier, maybe even B tier. Cold became really good with the bug fix. He was, I can't even really explain fully why he did, but he shot up in viability. Very good for the Drowned, which is huge because that is by far the hardest combat cycle boss. Not even close. But yeah, so Cold is definitely very good. He's definitely top of C tier, maybe even B tier for me. Sorry, I didn't fully update that. That's my bad. I will do that after I post this video. For when you guys check the tier list, you'll see it. But yeah, he's definitely very good, and has his niche of being a debuffer, but also a bit of a buffer because he can buff Legion of Doom allies. And then D tier is Black Canary. I've talked with probably I would say the biggest whale currently playing in the game in pre-launch servers, and he's a huge Black Canary fan. And, you know, we were kind of talking, and it's like, it feels like she should have a niche, because she is the only silencer in the game. But, like, it's a 6-second silence. None of her other skills are good. She, like, reduces accuracy on one attack. Her third attack just gives her a flat physical defense buff. She's just really underwhelming, and she feels like she should have a niche, because she's the only debuffer. But, like, I think part of it is Meta Brawl not being manually played. I think it being automatically played harms her. And she just needs kind of a overall buff on basically everything she has if devs ever want her to be usable. I think she's just not usable. I think she's just objectively not usable. She's not a good character. You shouldn't invest in her. I think she is argument for worst character in the game. And it's kind of a shame because she definitely should have a niche, being the only silencer in the game right now. And, I mean, you know, a lot of these characters are going to get power corrupt pretty quickly. I mean, her kit is very basic. So at least, you know, if they buffed her a little bit, they could give her a chance to shine before she inevitably gets power corrupt. Or maybe she makes a comeback when Team Arrow becomes a thing. Or they actually decide to commit to making Birds of Prey a good team. Either or. I mean, there's always hope that these characters can become better. But yeah, so I think that's where my list kind of ends. If you have any more questions, clarifications, even just arguments, you know, feel free to let me know. Yeah, I realize some of these are definitely going to be questionable. I think a lot of people are not going to like. A lot of people don't agree with where I put Joker. I think a lot of players think I undervalue him, but I'm just saying I'm basically playing the game 6 months in the future for a lot of you global launch players. You know, I've been playing this game for a year. I've been through beta. I've been through soft launch, and I've been through global launch, and I've been actively, you know, playing and recording my experience. I've been keeping track of this sheet for, I think, coming up on 6 or 7 months now, so it's not like I'm just talking out of my ass. I have a lot of anecdotal evidence. I talk to a lot of players, and yeah, I definitely, I'm you know, this is the data I've collected. You know, it's a tier list, it's subjective, so feel free to disagree, but yeah, this is kind of the data that I've put together for you guys. So thank you for watching. I hope it was informative in some way, and if it is, feel free to let me know. If not, feel free to give me comments on how to improve. I'm always looking to improve. Yeah, so, you know, I'll see you guys around. Thank you.